Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. Ongoing coronavirus pandemic is an unprecedented crisis. And for the education sector in India and around the world, it is acting as a catalyst. It has changed the way education is imparted. It has forced much needed innovation in the sector. It has completely disrupted the sector. Computers, laptops, mobile phones have become the classrooms. Coronavirus has brought everything home, be it our office or our school or college. And amidst all of this, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's cabinet has cleared the long pending national education policy as well. But the question is India prepared for these kind of changes? What are the challenges faced by the education sector due to COVID-19? Let's find out in this living room conclave, India Education Mission on Times Network, presented by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, co-powered by Deakin University, Australia. I'm Hina Gambhir. Joining us on the broadcast is Dr. Sasangam Ramanathan, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham; Ravneet Pahwa, who is Deputy Vice President Global and CEO, South Asia, Deakin University, Australia. We have with us Dr. Sunil Rai, Vice Chancellor, University of Petroleum and Energy Services, and Ms. Divya Lal, Founder and MD, FlipLearn. Welcome all of you on this very special broadcast on Times Network. Dr. Ramanathan, let me begin this discussion with you. We know that COVID has disrupted the education sector. Is this disruption good or bad?
Well, personally, I think the changes have been quite good. We should be looking at positive things that came out of this particular pandemic. Now, why do I say that? I think the entire education sector went through a sort of a disruption that forced all of us to adopt what we think should have been done maybe 3-4 years ago. Now, we've gone to adopting what is called hybrid learning, where students can attend online classes and have a lot of discussion with the faculty. This hybrid learning was talked about quite a lot, but did we really implement? Now it's a time, and we've gone, I think, the entire country has gone making this change. So that's how I look at it, as a positive. There are challenges that come along with it. We would have to deal with it one at a time.
Okay, we'll discuss about the challenges one by one in just a bit. Meanwhile, let's also take the opening comments of Ravneet Pahwa. Is India ready to embrace this kind of disruption?
I think that India is getting ready. I mean, if you look around you and you see students, whether they are in school or in colleges or in universities, they all are studying online. Exams are happening online and students are learning and teachers are teaching. So I think India is getting ready. No one saw this coming so soon. The digital disruption was on its way anyway, and we knew this was going to happen, but when was the question? I think the pandemic has actually made it happen sooner than later. I think the big challenge for India is accessibility and reachability of quality education across the country. And I think for that, India needs to develop infrastructure and also talent and expertise to be able to deal with these changes in the education sector.
Okay, Dr. Sunil Rai, if digital disruption was on its way, we knew that it was supposed to happen over the next couple of years. Do you think it has been forced upon us, and how has been our response according to you?
Yeah, I think I agree with you that basically there was, we all knew about it, that this is going to happen, but we did not believe in it. So I wouldn't say it was forced on us. I would say it's an excellent opportunity that has come our way. And we have started believing that, yes, it can all happen. The entire value chain of teaching, learning can be done online. The relationship between the learners and teachers have changed. It is not just one-way traffic from knowledge dissemination. It has now come to knowledge exchange. I think there are some good things. So in a way, yes, circumstances forced us, but just because we had been almost getting ready, and we are able to measure up to the challenge.
Okay. Ms. Divya Lal, accessibility, as Ravneet Pahwa said, is a big challenge. How do you think India can, tackle this kind of a problem? Because if you talk about rural part of our country, there is a larger section of our population which still does not have got access to computers or laptops or even smartphones.
I think it's a matter of actually looking at things from both sides. While you can talk about that internet and maybe smartphones and computers are not there, but what we are really looking at is actually a lot of programs going on television today, on radios going today, enabling education. I think the big piece that has moved is, does education or learning only happen inside brick and mortar walls? And a big resounding no from the system and everybody who stood up since the day one when the schools shut down has been, we can learn despite our challenges that come our way.
Okay. But Dr. Ramanathan, then the question is that if you are talking about options like imparting education via specific TV channels, something that Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has also talked about in the recent past, won't that be then one-way communication? How will you ensure you get the feedback? How will you ensure, that the students are learning the way you want them to learn? Won't that be a one-way communication?
No, that's the knowledge that we get out of TVs and other avenues. Yes, for that duration is one-way communication. But there are opportunities and options that are opened up to all students to communicate with their respective teachers or mentors. And those platforms, I mean, there is not a lot of people in India that don't have social media access. Smartphones are prevalent. I mean, anybody that's in India today might have a smartphone. So we have plenty of opportunities to have those discussions. So we would have to look at it two ways. One is I need to tell you what is important. Then next thing is we have to figure out a way to interact with these students, and there are multiple options for that, and all of them have to be engaged in order to be effective.
Okay. Ravneet Pahwa, I mean, how do we deal with other challenges that are also, coming when it comes to implementation of this digital classroom or e-learning, transforming from schools, the classrooms, to actually bringing that classroom into your own home via your laptop or computer?
I think that eventually what will settle down is a blended form of learning. I don't think that just online learning is going to be enough, and I don't think that the world will sustain the ability just to learn online. In my view, that once this pandemic settles down, I think that a blended form of learning will emerge much stronger, where I think the structure and the pedagogy will be very important of digital or blended learning. So there will be classroom teaching, there will be online teaching, there will be mentoring, and then there will be a lot of self-study as well. And I think a combination of the three is a futuristic approach of a really good teaching and learning methodology that I think that countries like India, where the population is so diverse and so far and wide, that I think this form will emerge much stronger. Also, I think it does bring in international providers to India in terms of how they can partner with countries like India and promote expertise through online and blended learning. So the new world is looking actually quite exciting as we speak, because I think the next phase of education is going to be about international partnerships, is going to be about mobility, is going to be about flexibility, is going to be about use of technology in the right form. It is never going to be able to replace human interaction forever. So which is why I say that a blend is going to be the futuristic approach.
Okay, that's quite interesting, blended form of learning. But Divya Lal, the question is going to be, then do we have the required infrastructure really to make this shift? How much of a progress, according to you, we have made in this region specifically from March when the lockdown began to the current phase of unlock?
I think that's a very important part to see, how our journey has been last 100, 120 days. And if you see the day the country went into a lockdown, basically all teachers, and we're working with more than hundreds of schools, more than thousands of schools, and with more than 3.7 million learners who have been empowered to use platforms like FlipLearn, who've brought in, the platform which can help online learning to happen. And I think there are 2-3 important things when you look at stability of a solution that will work. One, it has to be a low bandwidth solution. And when I say low bandwidth, I'm like, if WhatsApp works for you, it should work, because that is pretty much the lowest bandwidth you will use. And secondly, you need it to be platform and device agnostic. You don't need to bother whether you're on a desktop with internet or whether you're, on an Android or a Google phone or an iPhone or any kind of a piece or a platform.
Okay. Dr. Sunil Rai, what are the other kind of alternatives, according to you, apart from what Divya Lal has mentioned, that can really be used to address this issue of mass inaccessibility of online learning?
So firstly, this is, as per me, it is really not as grave as far as the internet is concerned, because in our experience, we had been dealing with almost 12,000 students on a daily basis. However, of course, once everybody gets on to using this, internet will have to be, of course, made more robust. But yes, I totally agree that we have to actually think of options on non-Microsoft platforms. Like the Android platform, we had problems in conducting online examinations and third board in Android-based platforms. So I think one is the internet, the other is we have some innovative ways of broadcasting, like local TV, local radio stations, which may be used relay from one station, places where the internet is developed. So yes, some innovative think of relay may have to be thought about.
That's interesting. Innovation is going to be the key in this entire case. Dr. Ramanathan, how have Indians really reacted to this new India in the education sector that we are talking about, that we have seen over the last 100 odd days?
Well, to be very honest, the platforms that are available now in India for education, they are far superior. This bandwidth issue that was brought up, yes, it is still a problem. However, the teaching learning experience as far as students and faculty goes, I think it's quite good. Now, is this going to be the norm moving forward? I think it's always going to be a blended learning. You just cannot avoid interacting with teachers. Now, I'm not saying that it's just for the knowledge. Look at a small kid. We're talking primary school, secondary school, higher education, all of them going online. A kid's fun is going to school. Now you take that away, you're going to have other issues with the kids. So I believe this is just a stopgap solution. But on the flip side and the positive side, all of us in India have realized the value of this online education and online platform, the ease that it offers the students to get through a degree program. I've got the flexibility as a student. I can download, read the material at my pace rather than dictated by somebody else. Now the time differences are taken away. We heard about internationalization. Now that's going to be made much easier. So students are going to have a lot more exposure when it comes to getting education in India and abroad. But at the end of the day, it is going to be a stopgap. We have tech-savvy students, right?
Yes.
We need to believe in them.
Yes. No, Dr. Ramanathan, I was just saying that, since you've called it a stopgap solution, because we are in this time of coronavirus pandemic, we really don't know when will schools and colleges be open again, because the way numbers are rising, it is going to be perhaps some time away. But then the question is that how do you measure the outcome? How do you, map the performance of students? Because if you're talking about online education, it's like one size that should fit everybody. That's going to be the concept, right? Because you will be putting in content for all the children on social media or via some specific online platforms for them to be able to access them. But how will you measure their performance? Because every child has got a different need.
Yeah, very good question. I mean, we always have this fast learners, slow learners. The evaluation process itself has been modified significantly. Now, what used to be just answering questions, I think many universities, top-notch universities, in Amrita, we didn't go through a complete online exam. It was more of a viva kind. I mean, we need to be able to talk to the students to really understand. If we don't spend that time with them, you will not be able to figure out, who is fast learner, who's kind of slow, lacking behind. Once you identify students that need really help, a lot of help, that's where the strength and quality of the faculty comes in. Now, that's an important factor that nobody's talking here, because we think it's just loading some course material into the platform. Every university has a learning management system.
Right.
Just downloading the material ain't going to help. That interaction with faculty and the level of interaction with faculty becomes extremely important.
Interaction of students with the faculty is very, very important aspect, and that's something that the focus has to be if we want to properly go to this digital way of learning, digital way of imparting education to students. We'll discuss more on this one on the other side of this very, very short break. Stay with us on Living Room Conclave India Education Mission on Times Network. Welcome back. You're here with us on this Living Room Conclave India Education Mission on Times Network, presented by Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, co-powered by Deakin University, Australia. And we're talking about the new challenges that India's education sector is facing currently because of COVID-19. Ravneet Pahwa, I want you to respond to this aspect that Dr. Ramanathan talked about on the issue of interaction. That's very, very important between the students and the teachers. I mean, in India, do we have enough capacity? Because, even teachers will have to be able to adapt to this new form of teaching.
I think the whole thing is going to be about the pedagogy and the methodology of going forward if this is going to be the digital form of education. And I think that while you do talk about the learner, I think you really have to talk about the teacher as well, because the new forms of digital technology is going to be not very easy for people who are not very comfortable with technology. So I think that we will have to invest a lot of time, effort and money into training and making sure that the people who are actually teaching are also well equipped. It's not easy to teach online when you are not used to this online system. Whether it is at school or it is at university, I think there is a lot of focus that will need to go into, first of all, the pedagogy. I think this was mentioned before as well, that just putting content online is not enough at all. Anyone can do that. The whole aspect is about the user, learner, teacher experience, and what do you get out of that as an outcome. And I think the whole piece of evaluation is an interesting one as well. The whole piece around interaction, engagement, I think is also an interesting one. Just content is only one very minor part of the whole thing. And at Deakin University, we've had an experience of being an online university, a digital university for over 40 years. And for us, it was not so hard. Within 24 hours, we were able to have 62,000 students study online from different parts of the world. But it is a challenge if you are actually not used to doing that, and if you don't have the capability and the capacity to be able to do that. So I think for India, it will be a difficult task going forward.
Okay. Dr. Sunil Rai, what about the issue of socialization? Because here, when children go to school, they also understand how to work in groups. Peer-to-peer learning is important. They understand the need for socialization. Don't you think with online platforms, that is going to be one aspect that they could miss out on? Perhaps innovation in this area will be needed.
Sure, because most of these students, when we took their feedback as to what is it that you are missing the most, the two things which came up right on top, one was what you are mentioning, that they are missing the peer interaction. And second is, of course, they are missing the campus life. As Ravneet rightly said, none of them actually mentioned anything about the content. So which means, yes, there is an issue of this socializing, but innovatively that is possible. Because we have had conducted something like online Wow Wednesdays,
Right.
which is when students on every Wednesday, meet each other, sing songs, tell stories, and socialize. So now this has to become a little bit. We have also, students have done something called Saturday Night Live,
Okay.
where they display their talents online. So I think this we will have to prepare, because it may, as you rightly said, we don't know when this pandemic is going to end.
Absolutely.
So therefore, we have to actually look at this socializing.
So innovation clearly is going to be the key. Ms. Divya Lal, I give you the last word, 10 seconds, your final comments.
I think people around are picking up learning systems and platforms that not only provide you content or a virtual conferencing feature, but something that you talked about, saying personalization is happening today. In evaluation, in learning, and enabling peer learning are all things that are happening with online solutions that we are today providing. So I think it's a matter of how fast they get accepted and adopted. And like the big thing you talked about, this is the big fight between the digital natives and the digital immigrants. And I think we are going in that way of enabling both.
So we are perhaps on the right track. Appreciate all my guests for joining us on this very special broadcast. We'll of course be back next week with another important aspect as far as digital education is concerned. Thanks for watching.